call this show the best superhero television show of all time is honestly an understatement. Welcome to the non-spoiler and spoiler review of Watchmen, the series from HBO. And in this review, I'm gonna first give you a very quick non-spoiler review and my objective rating for it, my top 10 moments, my top 5 characters, and just why the story really resonated with me. First off, let's start with my objective non-spoiler review. And in objective review, I break a television show down into 6 categories and assign weights to them depending on the genre to have the most honest, unbiased, objective review as possible. So let's start first off with story. The story of Watchmen in this series takes place in 2019, takes place after the events of the graphic novel, the original graphic novel, not the movie. There's clear distinction there. But the thing I love about this story is that it just really delved into race, not necessarily race relations, but kind of just what legacy that all of these things leave behind, whether it's just racism and KKK, it's a legacy that they want to leave behind, that they wrongfully think they should leave behind. Black legacy about how, you know, you got to stay attached to your past, and do you continue to carry on that burden? How do you move past it? All of that is just really interesting. Also, there's a really interesting just superhero, story that kind of masks this. The story's really amazing. It's a 10 out of 10. Cannot recommend it enough. Next is the emotion. The emotion here is really good. I really enjoy Angela Abar's emotional arc throughout this series. Also, Will Reeves' arc throughout the series, and just really, the emotion I think in this series just really just epitomizes what the story is all about. It's about wanting a family, wanting to feel some belonging, wanting to feel connected to not only other people, but to your history, to your parents, to your grandparents, just all really beautiful, just beautiful things. Emotion gets a 9.5 out of 10. The action here is pretty good. It's not that action-packed of a series. Like, I wouldn't think of it like a Daredevil. I think Daredevil action is really good. Sister Night kicks so much butt. There's a great scenes there. There are just really superhero-esque scenes. I don't want to give it away just in case you don't plan on watching the rest of this, but just really huge spectacle. Still not that action-packed. Action gets an 8 out of 10. Next is on to comedy. It is no spoiler that Ozymandias is in the series, but it is surprising that he really brings a lot of the comedy to this. Jeremy Irons does an amazing job just being comedic, but these aren't jokes. Like, no one's telling jokes in this series, but things are just funny. Like, things are situationally funny, but comedy gets a 7.5 out of 10. That's on to acting. The acting in the series is completely stellar from everybody. Regina King especially brings it in every single scene. She does not hold back. I never feel like she is not that person she is. She's just such an amazing actress. Like, she's always been an amazing actress. Love seeing her chance to shine in a superhero story. Jeremy Irons does good. Jeremy Irons does a really great job that he is like the only person oftentimes in his scenes, and he is carrying a huge load of that, purposely so. But he does a great job just sucking you into whatever scene he's in. There's one acting choice from a character who's from the original novel, and it just seems to be much different. But I didn't mind it. I'm just saying that was a choice he made. He still did a really great job acting. So really, everyone did a very phenomenal job. Acting gets a 9.5 out of 10. Directing or producing, just how everything came together. Damon Lindelof, the showrunner here, I just have mad respect for him. Like, first of all, he seems to be a really huge Watchmen fan, and he's been approached to do this several times. And usually each time he's like, no, we shouldn't do this to Watchmen. And he learned about the Tulsa Race Massacre in 1921. He's like, you know what, maybe me as a white man shouldn't be telling the story. But he still felt obligated to tell the story, but he also still brought in so many writers, so many black people, so many people that really loved Watchmen to really help him tell the story. I just love the humbleness that he brings to it, and I love that he feels like he has a story to tell, and you can tell that because this series might not have a second season. I wish it does, but if it doesn't, I really applaud him for telling the story that he wanted to tell. Another thing, the music is really great, and it's definitely listen to the soundtrack, really amazing. And the series is shot beautifully. The CGI done is really great, maybe except for like one character, which is not CGI, but it just could have been slightly a little bit better, but still really good. Just everything. Feels like they put a lot of money into this. So directing gets a 10 out of 10. That brings weighted average score to a 9.3 out of 10. If you follow any of my reviews, anything above a 9 is freaking amazing. It's out of this world, just great. And I will say, the reason why I said that it's calling this show the greatest superhero show of all time is an understatement, because I think this is the best superhero story that has been told in the past 10 years, really since The Dark Knight. Like, not lying, 100% honest here. Nothing since The Dark Knight I think has come close to this. All right, getting into the top 10 moments. So this is the spoiler review, spoilers, and let's get into it. Number 10 moment, Sister Knight's origins. Really great to see how Angela became kind of Sister Knight, her influences, everything. Very similar to how like Batman got his influence. Like Angela kind of is the Batman of the story. Her parents were killed, and you know, she had this kind of anger built up inside of her. Number 9, Dr. Manhattan wakes up after Angela learns that people know that Dr. Manhattan is in Tulsa, is Cal. She goes back, and I just love the way she talks to him. Like, hey, we knew this was gonna happen. It's time to wake up. And geez, Yaya does a really amazing job. Like, just being that lovable husband that he is, that kind of lovable, flawless husband. He's like, what are you talking about? She's like, John, it's time to wake up. He's like, my name's not John. And just boom, boom. And then she takes out, freaking digs in his head, which is really gruesome scene. And just the visual of her taking out that little ring and then seeing his blueness in her eyes. And then you skip into the next episode where he actually wakes up and he, you know, just floating there, just all godlike. And he's so out of it. Because number 8, Looking Glass's origin story. Looking Glass is just an amazing character, even though I wish we got a little bit more of him. It's really interesting to see that like really shy kid who was, I think he was Mormon or Jehovah's Witness, not sure. Anyway, he knocks on people's doors, I'm sure. It's really interesting to see just how much that event, that squid attack, played a role in his life. Like, he is a person who's just driven by fear. And so much of the show is about the concept of fear. Number 7, Ozymandias escapes Utopia. Just that sentence alone of Ozymandias escaping Utopia is a crazy sentence. Why would anybody want to escape Utopia? It was just so indicative of the character that Ozymandias, or Adrian Veidt, is, that he's such a narcissist. Like, he doesn't necessarily want Utopia, he wants to earn Utopia. And I love the scene of him, of the Game Master dying in his arms, and Ozymandias saying like, you were meant just to be a distraction for me, a great rival. And he says like, was I a good rival? No. Like, Ozymandias was hilarious. Jeremy Irons was hilarious in this, and just most of the scenes he was in, which is weird because I don't read him like that in the book, and also I didn't see him like that in the movie. So just really interesting. Almost makes you think that all his time on Europa drove him mad because the Game Master wasn't a good enough rival. Number 6, Tripping Off Nostalgia. This was a really, really amazing episode. And really, this moment is just all of that episode. Getting to see Will Reeve's origin stories, from really escaping Black Wall Street while it's burning. Like, he is Superman, to when he goes to Harlem, becomes a cop. Like, he's trying to do the right things, but he can't, because racism exists. He can't do these things. He can't get justice. And so he becomes hooded justice. He knows that if they saw any brown skin under that mask, he would be completely hung and killed immediately. It just makes me think that, man, I would have really loved if like Dwayne McDuffie was still around, for multiple reasons. But Dwayne McDuffie done a lot of great writing. That, you know who Dwayne McDuffie is, look him up. Really amazing writer. He passed away a few years ago. But this reminded me of the story in Icon, where like all the police are pointing his guns at him. And I think Rocket says like, I'm sure Superman doesn't have this problem, because Superman doesn't have that problem. Because if the world's most powerful person was black, things wouldn't necessarily be like that. And this was almost the reason for the show. Lindelof said before, like, after he watched Black Panther, like, all right, if Wakanda was a real thing, white people probably tried to destroy it. And you know what? Black Wall Street was that real thing, and they did destroy it. Anyway, I am getting off topic here. And that ending where he goes and kills members of Cyclops, and he takes the tool of the enemy and uses it to hang Judd Crawford. Just amazing storytelling. Number 5, Lady True extorts the farmers. This is a really kind of small scene, but it just hit me. Like, this was to me the greatest extortion scene, or greatest just boss move, just greatest flets I've seen in really anything. And it's just so simple. You know, Lady True goes to these farmers. She's like, you don't have a legacy because you can't have kids. I know you can't have kids because you went to my company, you tried to do some, try to get pregnant through them. And then they're like, oh, wait a minute, you want our land? You're trying to bribe us? And you're gonna help us have a baby? She's like, no, I've already made you a baby. Like, mind blown. Number 4, the moment Dr. Manhattan fell in love. Dr. Manhattan knows exactly how his life is going to happen, but he doesn't necessarily know why these things are. He doesn't feel them, is what is the sense that I get. He knows that he's in love with Angela, but he's never felt that moment until that moment happens. And so in the moment where he sees that Angela is ready to go and fight for him, even though he tells her that I'm going to die, and then he tells her, this is the moment that I fall in love with you. Beautifully done. Angela takes out members of the 7th Cavalry, and Dr. Manhattan comes and helps her and just starts zapping people away. And while the day seems like it is saved, and you know, she says, ha, you're wrong. One thing, never tell Dr. Manhattan he's wrong, because he's not. And he says, I'm not. And he gets blasted away. And kind of piggyback off of this moment, also love the very end there where Dr. Manhattan dies and he's with Angela, and Dr. Manhattan at first takes Adrian Veidt and Lori and Looking Glass to somewhere else, and she asks, like, why didn't you take me? He says, because I don't want to be alone when I die. Like, that is such a callback to when he first turned into Dr. Manhattan, and he's screaming to his girlfriend not to leave him, and she can't sit there and watch him, but Angela sits there with him and she watches him. And, you know, she asks him, like, where are you at right now? He says, I'm in every single moment that we were together. Like, that's the most emotional part for me. One of the most emotional parts for me in this series. Number 3, the opening of the Tulsa Massacre. Like I've said before, I am from Tulsa, Oklahoma. I've done a lot of research about the topic. I've always wanted this to get out to people and so more people can learn it, but I've never really imagined exactly how it looked, and it was really rough for me to watch it. And on the superhero side of this is Krypton exploding. You know, that was just a great comparison there, that Hooded Justice is the Superman of this universe. But this scene got me thinking that the flashpoint of the Watchmen universe, because it is an alternate universe where these things are similar but certain other things happen, the flashpoint must be the Tulsa Massacre of 1921, because that is where Hooded Justice starts, and that kind of, I feel like, sets a domino effect for everything else. Number 2, a god walks into a bar. That whole scene is just really just expertly written. Like, it must be fun, but also just agonizing to write a character like Dr. Manhattan, who experiences all of time at once, who is in conversation with someone who experiences time in a linear fashion. And you go kind of in and out, back and forth between him and Angela's relationship. I absolutely love the moment where he's telling Angela, like, hey, we're gonna fight. She's like, do you want to fight? And he says, regardless of my intent, the fight will happen no matter what. And I just found that so funny because I just relate to that as a husband. Number 1, Angela and Will goes home. First, right afterwards, Angela goes to the theater where this whole series starts off at, which is great job there done, just great storytelling. And she has a real conversation with her grandfather. You know, he talks about how she took his nostalgia and and if she felt what he felt, and she says like, yeah, I felt anger. And he's like, well, yeah, I thought that was anger too at first, but really it was fear and hurt, which is really interesting concept, because I mean, anger most of the time comes from fear and hurt, and that's what he was feeling his whole life. They said something so profound about wearing a mask, and how sometimes you have to take off that mask because wounds can't heal under mask. It needs air, and that is just so indicative, really, of just the whole United States history with racial discrimination against Black people. Like, these things have never been addressed, never been fully addressed, never been apologies, never been reparations. It always just been kind of just swept under the rug, like, hey guys, that was years ago, we don't have to worry about that anymore. But no, we do. We need to have these conversations. We need to have these actual apologies and reparations for things that's happened. It doesn't matter if it was your grandpa's grandpa. These things still had ramifications down the line that are still felt today. Like, we need to air all these things out. And really, I think this whole story just comes full circle when they actually go home. Like, Dr. Manhattan goes to her grandfather because he knows that Angela wants a family, and now she has her grandfather. She has that thing she's been missing her whole life. Yeah, sure, she had cows, sure, she had kids, but she didn't know where she came from. And now Will has that. All right, on to my top 5 characters. Number 5 is Lady True. I just love how smart and intelligent and just so much of a BA she was. Just how much freaking respect that she commanded. And of course, that extortion scene is just one of the best fletzes I've ever seen in anything. Number 4 is Looking Glass. I really wish we got more of Looking Glass. He's such a great looking character. He was really that mold of Rorschach, but like less homophobic. But he was still unrelenting for the truth. I mean, he still didn't fall for their crap. Number 3, Cal, aka Dr. Manhattan. They did a really good job, really just showing up the time aspect of the character, which I feel like the movie doesn't do as good of a job on. Still, great movie. That movie's a masterpiece. I don't care what anyone says. The thing I mentioned before about the character not necessarily being true to the former character, that was with Dr. Manhattan here. He feels a lot more emotional. Number 2, Will Reeves, aka Hooded Justice. Love seeing his origin story. Just really mind-blowing things. And just loved his conversations with Angela. And number 1 is Angela, aka Sister Night. I mean, she really is the heart and soul of this series. And really, I just love seeing a Black woman own a superhero TV series. All right, and then last, why the story resonates with me so much. Again, I am from Tulsa. My grandfather was in Tulsa Race Riot. He was only a baby though, so there's no memories there, but he died before I was born. So like, I've never had a grandfather before. So I feel like I just really related to Angela, and granted, I'll never get that opportunity. So when she gets to really invite him home, that part just really hit me. Like, all right, now you have a chance to have that connection again to your past, to really find your roots. Anyway, let me know what your top 10 moments are of this series. Let me know where it ranks to you, and just, I guess, everything superhero related. Let me know what your favorite characters were, and sincerely, thank you for watching. I'm out.